I'm about to reveal something that might save your life. Something about the vitamin D supplement you're taking right now. You think you're protecting your bones. You think you're doing everything right. You're spending money every month on those capsules. You're swallowing them faithfully. But there's a 90% chance you're doing it completely wrong. And because of that, your bones are still weakening. Your immune system is still failing. Your risk of falling and fracturing is still climbing. And you have absolutely no idea it's happening. What I'm about to share will shock you. It goes against everything you've been told about vitamin D. Your doctor probably told you to take it, maybe even gave you a specific dose. But I'd bet everything that your doctor never explained the critical details that determine whether that supplement actually works, or whether you're just flushing expensive pills down the toilet and staying deficient despite years of supplementation. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why your vitamin D isn't working, what's blocking absorption in your body right now, and most importantly, what questions to ask your doctor to finally fix this problem. But I'm going to tell you right now, some of what you're about to learn will make you angry, because the information I'm sharing should have been explained to you years ago, and it wasn't. Stay with me, because what you're about to learn could be the difference between strong bones and a hip fracture, between a healthy immune system and constant infections, between independence and a nursing home. This matters more than you realize. Before we begin, a critical disclaimer. The information I'm sharing today is strictly for educational purposes and should not be considered medical advice. I am not your personal physician and cannot provide individualized medical guidance. Never start, stop, or change any supplement or medication without consulting with your doctor. Vitamin D supplementation can cause serious adverse effects, including hypercalcemia, kidney stones, and toxicity. Some people should not take vitamin D supplements at all, including those with certain conditions like sarcoidosis, hyperparathyroidism, or kidney disease. Always work with your physician who can order appropriate blood tests and monitor your levels safely. Let me tell you about Patricia, and I want you to listen carefully to this story because I promise you, you're going to see yourself in it. Patricia was 72 years old. She was the kind of woman who did everything right. She went to all her doctor appointments. She took her medications exactly as prescribed. She read health articles. She tried to take care of herself. She wasn't neglectful. She wasn't careless. She was trying. 8 years ago, Patricia's doctor told her she was vitamin D deficient. Her blood level was 18 nanograms per milliliter. Severe deficiency. Her doctor explained that low vitamin D weakens bones, increases fall risk, impairs immune function. Patricia understood. She was scared. Her mother had broken her hip at 74 and never recovered. Spent 2 years in a nursing home before dying of pneumonia. Patricia did not want that fate. So her doctor prescribed vitamin D, 2,000 IU daily. Patricia went to the pharmacy that same day. She bought a bottle. She started taking it immediately. Every single morning when she woke up, she'd take her vitamin D capsule with a glass of water. Never missed a day. Not one day in 8 years. After 6 months, her doctor rechecked her level. It had gone from 18 to 24. Better, but still deficient. Still below 30. Her doctor said, "Keep taking it, it's going up." So Patricia kept taking it faithfully. Another 6 months. Another blood test. Her level was 26. Barely moved. Her doctor was puzzled but said, "Let's increase the dose to 5,000 IU." Patricia bought the higher dose, took it every morning. 6 months later, another test. Level was 29. Still deficient after nearly 2 years of daily supplementation. Her doctor increased the dose again. 10,000 IU daily. That's 5 times the recommended daily allowance. Patricia was worried. That seemed like a huge amount. But she trusted her doctor. She bought the high-dose capsules, took them faithfully every single morning for 6 more months. Another blood test. Her level was 32. After more than 2 years of supplementation at progressively higher doses, she'd barely scraped into the minimally adequate range. She wasn't anywhere near optimal. She wasn't at 40 or 50, where the research shows maximum benefit. She was at 32, just barely above the deficiency threshold. And Patricia was exhausted. Exhausted from years of trying. Exhausted from spending money on supplements that barely worked. Exhausted from feeling like her body was failing her no matter what she did. Every time she got her blood test results back and saw those numbers still low, she felt defeated. She felt like she was doing something wrong, but didn't know what. She'd ask her doctor, "Why isn't this working? I'm taking huge doses. I never miss. Why is my level barely moving?" And her doctor would say, "I don't know. Some people just don't absorb it well. Let's try even higher doses." But here's what terrified Patricia most. She knew what low vitamin D meant for her future. She'd read about it. She'd researched it. She understood the consequences in painful detail. She knew about bone density. She knew that vitamin D is essential for calcium absorption. Without adequate vitamin D, your body cannot absorb calcium from food, no matter how much calcium you consume. Your bones become osteopenic, then osteoporotic. They become porous, fragile, like honeycomb instead of solid structure. And at 72, with a vitamin D level of only 32 after years of trying to fix it, Patricia's bones were in danger. She knew about fracture risk. She knew that low vitamin D dramatically increases the risk of falls and fractures. Your muscles become weak. Your balance becomes impaired. Your reaction time slows. You trip over things you would have easily stepped over years ago. You lose your footing on stairs. You slip in the bathroom. And when you fall with osteoporotic bones, those bones shatter. Patricia knew exactly what a hip fracture meant. She'd watched her mother go through it. The surgery, the pain, the inability to walk properly ever again, the loss of independence, the move to a nursing home because she couldn't care for herself anymore, the depression that set in from losing her home, her freedom, her life, the pneumonia that killed her 2 years later because immobility leads to fluid in the lungs and infections you can't fight off. One hip fracture, one moment of losing balance, one fall, and your entire life ends, even if your heart keeps beating. 25% of people over 70 who fracture their hip die within a year. Not from the fracture itself, from the complications, from the immobility, from the infections, from the loss of will to keep fighting. And of those who survive, more than half never regain their independence. They don't go home. They go to nursing facilities. They need walkers or wheelchairs permanently. Their lives as they knew them are over. Patricia knew all of this, and every time she got her blood test back showing her vitamin D was still low despite years of supplementation, she knew she was still at risk. She knew her bones were still weakening. She knew that fall could happen any day. This wasn't hypothetical. This was her life, her future, her terror. And it wasn't just her bones. Patricia knew low vitamin D devastates your immune system. Vitamin D is essential for immune function. Your white blood cells need vitamin D to function properly. Without adequate levels, your immune system cannot fight infections effectively. You get sick more often. Those infections last longer. They become more severe. Patricia kept getting respiratory infections, 2 or 3 times every winter, bronchitis that would linger for weeks, sinus infections that required multiple rounds of antibiotics. One year, she developed pneumonia and spent 4 days in the hospital. The doctors never connected it to her low vitamin D, but Patricia wondered. She read the research. She knew low vitamin D increases infection risk. She knew her deficiency was making her vulnerable. And there was more. Patricia had read about vitamin D and cardiovascular disease, about the connection between low vitamin D and high blood pressure, about increased risk of heart attack and stroke, about muscle weakness and chronic pain, about brain fog and depression. Low vitamin D affects every system in your body, every organ, every tissue. Nothing works optimally when you're deficient. So Patricia was taking 10,000 IU daily. That's enormous. And she was still barely reaching 32. After 8 years of trying, 8 years of spending money on supplements, 8 years of hoping each new bottle would finally be the one that worked, 8 years of checking her blood level and seeing disappointment, 8 years of knowing she was still at risk despite doing everything she was told to do. When Patricia came to see me, she was desperate. She was frustrated. She was scared. And she asked me the question that haunted her. Why isn't this working? What am I doing wrong? And when I asked her detailed questions about exactly how she was taking the vitamin D, when she was taking it, what she was taking it with, the answer became immediately, painfully clear. Patricia was making 5 critical mistakes. 5 errors that were blocking absorption and preventing her body from utilizing the vitamin D she was consuming. Errors that nobody had ever explained to her. Errors her doctor didn't know to ask about. Errors that were costing her 8 years of continued deficiency despite massive doses of supplementation. But I'm not going to tell you what those mistakes were yet. I'm not going to reveal the solutions yet. Because you need to understand something first. You need to understand that this isn't just about Patricia. This is about you. This is happening to millions of people right now. Millions of people taking vitamin D supplements every day, spending money every month, thinking they're protected, and staying deficient because nobody explained the critical details that determine whether supplementation actually works. Comment below if you've been taking vitamin D supplements. Type, "taking vitamin D," right now. I want to see how many of you are supplementing, because I'd bet most of you are making at least one of the same mistakes Patricia made. And that means your vitamin D isn't working either. That means your bones are still at risk. Your immune system is still compromised. You're still vulnerable. And you don't even know it. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever had your vitamin D level retested after you started supplementing? Most people haven't. Your doctor told you to take it. You bought a bottle. You've been taking it for months or years. But you never check to see if it's actually working. You're assuming it is. You're hoping it is. But you don't actually know. And here's what terrifies me about that. You could be taking vitamin D every single day for years and still be severely deficient. Your body might not be absorbing it. You might not have the cofactors required to metabolize it. You might be taking it wrong. And you'd never know until something bad happens, until you fall and break your hip, until you develop severe osteoporosis, until you get an infection you can't fight off, until the damage is already done. That's what was happening to Patricia. 8 years of damage accumulating. 8 years of bone density declining. 8 years of fracture risk increasing. 8 years of immune dysfunction. Because nobody explained the basics of how vitamin D absorption actually works. But I'm still not going to tell you those 5 mistakes yet. Because first you need to understand why this matters so much. You need to understand what vitamin D actually does in your body and what happens when you're deficient. Because without understanding the stakes, you won't take this seriously. You won't implement the changes. You'll keep making the same mistakes and wondering why nothing improves. Vitamin D isn't really a vitamin. That's the first thing most people don't understand. It's actually a hormone, a pro-hormone technically. Your body can make it from cholesterol when your skin is exposed to sunlight. But here's the problem. By age 70, your skin produces about 75% less vitamin D from sun exposure compared to when you were 20. 75% less. Your aging skin loses the ability to synthesize vitamin D efficiently, and most people over 60 aren't getting much sun exposure anyway. You've been told to avoid sun, to wear sunscreen, to stay covered. You're inside most of the day. And even if you go outside, if you live north of 35 degrees latitude, which includes most of the United States, you cannot make adequate vitamin D from sunlight during winter months. The sun's angle is too low. The UVB rays don't penetrate the atmosphere adequately. From November through February, you're making almost no vitamin D even if you're outside. So supplementation becomes essential. But here's where everything goes wrong for most people. Vitamin D is fat-soluble. That means it dissolves in fat, not water. For your body to absorb vitamin D from a supplement, it must be consumed with dietary fat. It needs to be incorporated into what are called mixed micelles. These are tiny droplets formed when you eat fat. Your gallbladder releases bile. Your pancreas releases enzymes. These break down dietary fat into fatty acids. Those fatty acids, along with bile salts and fat-soluble vitamins like vitamin D, form these micelles. The micelles are absorbed through your intestinal lining into your bloodstream. But if you take vitamin D without any fat, this process cannot happen. The vitamin D cannot form micelles. It cannot be absorbed. It passes through your digestive system and comes out the other end unused. You're literally flushing it down the toilet. Patricia was taking her vitamin D every morning on an empty stomach with a glass of water. No food, no fat. She'd wake up, take all her supplements, then make breakfast 30 minutes later. For 8 years she'd been doing this. For 8 years, she'd been swallowing vitamin D that her body couldn't absorb. Studies show that taking vitamin D with a meal containing fat increases absorption by 30 to 50% or more, compared to taking it without fat. Patricia was throwing away half or more of every dose she took. But that was only mistake number 1. There were 4 more mistakes sabotaging her supplementation. And I'm still not going to tell you what they are yet. Because you need to understand what happens after absorption. You need to understand vitamin D metabolism. Because even if you absorb vitamin D properly, it's still not work if you're missing critical cofactors. When vitamin D is absorbed, it travels to your liver. In your liver, an enzyme adds a hydroxyl group to it, converting it into 25-hydroxyvitamin D. This is what your doctor measures when they check your vitamin D level. This is the storage form. But it's not the active form. It's not the form that actually does anything in your body. To become active, it has to travel to your kidneys. In your kidneys, another enzyme adds another hydroxyl group, converting it into 1,25-dihydroxyvitamin D. This is the active hormone form. This is what binds to vitamin D receptors in your cells. This is what produces all the beneficial effects. Strong bones, healthy immune function. All of it depends on this active form. But here's the critical part that almost nobody knows. Both of those enzymes, the one in your liver and the one in your kidneys, require magnesium to function. Magnesium is an essential cofactor. Without adequate magnesium, those enzymes cannot work properly. Your vitamin D cannot be converted into the active form. It just sits there as the inactive storage form. Your blood level might look okay, but it's not doing anything. It's not protecting your bones. It's not supporting your immune system. It's useless without magnesium. And magnesium deficiency is epidemic. Roughly 50% of Americans don't get adequate magnesium from their diet. Modern farming has depleted magnesium from soil. Processed foods contain almost no magnesium. Many medications deplete magnesium, including proton pump inhibitors for acid reflux, diuretics for blood pressure, and others. Stress depletes magnesium. Aging reduces magnesium absorption efficiency. Patricia wasn't taking magnesium. For 8 years, she'd been taking vitamin D without the cofactor required to make it work. When we tested her magnesium level, it was low. Her body couldn't properly metabolize the vitamin D she was absorbing. That was mistake number 2. But there's more. There's a third critical cofactor that almost nobody knows about: vitamin K2. And if you're taking vitamin D without vitamin K2, you might be doing more harm than good. Vitamin D increases calcium absorption from your intestines. That's essential for bone health. But that calcium needs to go to your bones, not deposit in your arteries. Vitamin K2 activates proteins that direct calcium to bones and away from soft tissues like arteries. Without adequate K2, the calcium vitamin D helps you absorb might end up calcifying your arteries instead of strengthening your bones. Studies have shown associations between high-dose vitamin D supplementation without adequate K2 and increased vascular calcification. This doesn't mean vitamin D is dangerous. It means vitamin D needs K2 to work safely. They work together. Vitamin D increases calcium absorption. K2 directs that calcium to the right places. Patricia wasn't taking K2. Nobody had told her about it. For 8 years, she'd been taking high-dose vitamin D, increasing her calcium absorption, without the vitamin K2 needed to properly direct that calcium. That was mistake number 3. And we're not done yet. There are 2 more critical mistakes Patricia was making. But before I tell you what they are, I need you to understand something. These aren't obscure details. These aren't advanced biochemistry. These are basic fundamentals of how vitamin D supplementation works, and almost nobody is being told about them. Not by their doctors, not by the pharmacists, not even on the supplement bottles. You're being told, take vitamin D, and that's it. No explanation of how to take it properly. No discussion of cofactors. No emphasis on retesting to see if it's working. Just take this pill. And millions of people are supplementing ineffectively because of it. Millions of people with low vitamin D levels, despite years of supplementation. Millions of people still at risk for fractures, infections, and all the complications of deficiency. Are you starting to see why Patricia was so frustrated? Are you starting to understand why this matters so much? Are you starting to wonder if you're making these same mistakes? Comment if you've been taking vitamin D but never had your level retested. Type "no retest" right now, because that's probably the majority of you. You're taking it blindly, hoping it works, never confirming it actually is. Now let me tell you about Patricia's fourth mistake. This one is huge and affects millions of people, but almost never gets discussed. Patricia was on a medication for acid reflux, a proton pump inhibitor, omeprazole. She'd been taking it daily for 10 years. Her doctor prescribed it for gastroesophageal reflux disease and told her to take it indefinitely. Patricia didn't think much about it. Heartburn medication. Simple. Safe. Millions of people take it. But proton pump inhibitors dramatically reduce stomach acid production. That's how they work. They shut down the proton pumps in your stomach that produce acid. And while this helps with reflux, it creates serious problems for nutrient absorption. Stomach acid is necessary for digesting and absorbing many nutrients. It's necessary for optimal fat digestion. Fat needs to be properly emulsified and broken down for fat-soluble vitamins like vitamin D to be absorbed. When you suppress stomach acid with PPIs, you impair fat digestion. You impair absorption of fat-soluble vitamins. Your vitamin D absorption efficiency drops significantly. Additionally, PPIs reduce magnesium absorption. Remember, magnesium is essential for vitamin D metabolism, so PPIs create a double problem. They reduce vitamin D absorption directly by impairing fat digestion, and they reduce magnesium absorption, which impairs vitamin D metabolism, even if some vitamin D does get absorbed. Patricia had been on a PPI for 10 years while trying to supplement with vitamin D. For 10 years, her medication had been sabotaging her supplementation. Nobody had made this connection. Nobody had explained that her reflux medication was contributing to her vitamin D deficiency. That was mistake number 4. Are you on a proton pump inhibitor? Omeprazole, pantoprazole, lansoprazole, esomeprazole? Are you taking one of these medications daily or even several times per week? If you are, your vitamin D absorption is impaired. Your magnesium absorption is impaired. Your supplementation is less effective, and nobody probably told you about this interaction. Now let me tell you about Patricia's fifth and final mistake. This one affects anyone who's significantly overweight. Patricia carried about 60 pounds of excess weight. Her BMI was 32, obese category. She'd struggled with weight her entire adult life. She knew she needed to lose weight, but it was hard, and she didn't realize her weight was directly affecting her vitamin D status. Vitamin D is fat-soluble and lipophilic. It preferentially dissolves in and is stored in fat tissue. In obese individuals, a large portion of vitamin D, whether from supplements or sun exposure, gets sequestered in adipose tissue. It gets trapped in fat cells. It doesn't circulate in the bloodstream where it needs to be. It's not available to tissues. It's locked away in fat deposits. Studies have shown that obese individuals require 2 to 3 times higher vitamin D doses to achieve the same blood levels as normal weight individuals. Patricia was taking 10,000 IU daily and barely reaching 32. A lean person might achieve a level of 55 or 60 on that same dose. But Patricia's vitamin D was being sequestered in her adipose tissue. That was mistake number 5. So now you know all 5 mistakes Patricia was making. Taking vitamin D on an empty stomach without fat. Not taking magnesium. Not taking vitamin K2. Being on a proton pump inhibitor that impaired absorption. Being significantly overweight, which sequestered vitamin D in fat tissue. 5 critical errors. 5 barriers to effective supplementation. And nobody had explained any of them to her in 8 years. But here's what I want you to understand. These aren't Patricia's unique problems. These are common issues affecting millions of people. How many of you are taking vitamin D on an empty stomach or without a meal containing fat? How many of you aren't taking magnesium? How many of you have never heard of vitamin K2? How many of you are on PPIs or other medications that impair absorption? How many of you are carrying significant excess weight? I bet the majority of you watching this are making at least 2 or 3 of these mistakes, which means your vitamin D supplementation isn't working as well as it should be, which means you might still be deficient despite supplementing, which means you're still at risk. Before I tell you exactly what we did to fix Patricia's situation and what discussions you should have with your doctor, I want to make a request. If what you've learned so far has been eye-opening, if you're realizing you might be making these same mistakes, I'm asking for two things. First, subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. My mission is to give you the detailed information your doctors don't have time to explain. Information that can genuinely protect your health if you implement it properly with medical supervision. Second, share this video. Think about how many people you know over 60 who are taking vitamin D supplements. Your friends, your family. How many of them are making these same mistakes? How many of them have been supplementing for years with low or mediocre results? A simple share could help someone finally understand why their supplementation isn't working and what to do about it. And if you want detailed information about vitamin D and other critical supplements for people over 60, I've created something special. I'm working on a comprehensive ebook about nutritional supplementation with detailed protocols, cofactor requirements, timing strategies, everything you need to know. If you want to be notified when it's ready and receive exclusive health information I can't fit into videos, join my free newsletter. The link is in the description. No spam, just valuable education. Updates on research, answers to questions, practical information to help you work effectively with your healthcare providers. Thank you. Now let me tell you exactly what happened when we systematically fixed all 5 of Patricia's mistakes. Working closely with her physician, we implemented a comprehensive strategy. First, we changed when Patricia took her vitamin D. Instead of taking it in the morning on an empty stomach, she started taking it with dinner. Her dinner always included healthy fats: olive oil on her salad, avocado, fish twice a week, chicken with the skin. Her dinner provided the dietary fat necessary for vitamin D absorption. This one change alone probably doubled her absorption efficiency. Second, we added magnesium supplementation. Her doctor recommended magnesium glycinate, which is well absorbed and doesn't cause digestive upset like cheap magnesium oxide. 400 milligrams daily. This gave her body the cofactor necessary to metabolize vitamin D properly. Third, we added vitamin K2 as MK7, 100 micrograms daily. This ensured that the calcium her improved vitamin D status would help her absorb would be directed properly to her bones, rather than depositing in her arteries. Fourth, we worked with her gastroenterologist to address her acid reflux without chronic PPI use. They gradually tapered her omeprazole while implementing lifestyle modifications, elevating the head of her bed, avoiding eating within 3 hours of bedtime, reducing trigger foods. When she did need acid suppression, she used an H2 blocker occasionally rather than daily PPI. This reduced the barrier to vitamin D and magnesium absorption. Fifth, Patricia implemented a weight loss plan, not crash dieting, sustainable changes, reducing refined carbohydrates and sugar, increasing protein and vegetables, walking 30 minutes most days. Over 6 months, she lost 22 pounds. Her waist circumference decreased by 4 inches, indicating reduction in visceral fat. This reduced the adipose tissue sequestering her vitamin D. After 3 months of this comprehensive approach, Patricia's vitamin D level was retested. It had increased from 32 to 51, finally in the optimal range. After 8 years of struggle, 3 months of doing it right achieved what years of doing it wrong never could. Her doctor was satisfied with this level and recommended continuing the same regimen with annual monitoring. Patricia felt the difference. Her energy improved, her mood improved, her bone density scans 6 months later showed stabilization rather than continued decline. She went an entire winter without a single respiratory infection for the first time in years. Patricia's story illustrates why understanding the details matters so much. Taking vitamin D isn't enough. You have to take it correctly, with fat for absorption, with magnesium for metabolism, with K2 for proper calcium direction, without medications that impair absorption, with healthy body composition that doesn't sequester it in fat tissue. All of these factors determine whether supplementation works. Now let me be very clear about something. I'm not telling you to go make these changes on your own. I'm not prescribing supplements. I'm not giving you medical advice. What I'm telling you is what factors affect vitamin D absorption and metabolism so you can have informed discussions with your physician. Here are the conversations you should have with your doctor. First, ask about testing. If you haven't had your vitamin D level checked, ask for a 25-hydroxy vitamin D blood test. If you have been tested and found to be low, ask about retesting after supplementation to see if it's working. Testing is the only way to know if your strategy is effective. Typical retest timing is 3 to 4 months after starting or changing supplementation. Second, discuss with your doctor what target level is appropriate for you. Many doctors use 30 nanograms per milliliter as the target, but research suggests optimal levels for overall health may be 40 to 60. Ask your doctor what they recommend for you based on your individual situation. Third, discuss proper supplementation strategy with your doctor. Ask about taking vitamin D with food containing fat for better absorption. Ask about the importance of magnesium as a cofactor and whether you should have your magnesium level checked. Typical magnesium supplementation doses are 300 to 400 milligrams daily, but people with kidney disease must be very careful with magnesium and should only supplement under direct physician supervision. Fourth, ask your doctor about vitamin K2. Explain that you understand K2 works synergistically with vitamin D to properly direct calcium metabolism. Ask if K2 supplementation would be appropriate for you. Typical K2 doses as MK7 are 90 to 180 micrograms daily. However, if you're on warfarin or other blood thinners, do not take vitamin K supplements without careful discussion with your physician, as this can interfere with anticoagulation. Fifth, discuss any medications you're taking that might impair vitamin D absorption, particularly proton pump inhibitors. Ask if these are absolutely necessary or if alternatives might be considered. If PPIs are necessary, ask if higher vitamin D doses might be needed to compensate for reduced absorption. Sixth, if you're significantly overweight, discuss with your doctor how this affects vitamin D metabolism and whether weight loss should be part of your overall health strategy. These conversations give you and your doctor the information needed to optimize your vitamin D supplementation properly. Now, I want to emphasize something critical about safety. Vitamin D supplementation, particularly at higher doses, must be done under medical supervision. Vitamin D can cause toxicity if taken in excessive amounts. It can cause hypercalcemia, elevated blood calcium, which can be dangerous. Symptoms include nausea, vomiting, weakness, frequent urination, and kidney problems. If you experience these while taking vitamin D, contact your physician immediately. Some people should not take vitamin D supplements without very careful medical supervision, including those with sarcoidosis, hyperparathyroidism, kidney disease, or hypercalcemia. Certain medications can interact with vitamin D. This is why working with your physician is essential. The tolerable upper limit set by the Institute of Medicine is 4,000 IU daily for adults. Some people take higher doses under medical supervision for specific indications, but this requires monitoring, including periodic calcium level checks in some cases. Today you've learned why vitamin D supplementation fails for so many people. The 5 critical mistakes: taking it without fat, missing magnesium, missing K2, medications that impair absorption, body composition that sequesters it. You've learned why testing is essential to know if supplementation is working. You've learned what discussions to have with your doctor to optimize your strategy. My message isn't to supplement on your own without medical guidance. My message is education. You now understand the factors that determine whether vitamin D supplementation works. You know what questions to ask. You know what monitoring is appropriate. You can work effectively with your healthcare provider to finally achieve optimal vitamin D status. Schedule an appointment specifically to discuss vitamin D with your doctor. Get tested if you haven't been. Review your results. Discuss optimization strategies, including proper timing, cofactors, and addressing absorption barriers. Establish a retesting plan. Work in partnership with your physician. Share your experience in the comments. Are you taking vitamin D? Do you know your level? Are you making any of these 5 mistakes? Have you been supplementing for years without improvement? Your stories help others learn. If you haven't already, join my free newsletter, link in the description. Detailed educational content about vitamins, minerals, and health for people over 60. evidence-based information to help you make informed decisions with your healthcare providers. You'll be first to know when my comprehensive ebook is released. That first step you take today, scheduling that appointment to discuss vitamin D optimization with your doctor, could finally protect your bones. Finally strengthen your immune system. Finally reduce your fracture risk. The difference between continued deficiency despite supplementation and optimal levels that actually protect your health. Final critical reminder. This information is strictly educational and not medical advice. I am not your physician. Never start, stop, or change supplements without consulting your doctor. Vitamin D can cause serious adverse effects, including hypercalcemia and toxicity. Some people should not take vitamin D, including those with sarcoidosis, hyperparathyroidism, kidney disease. Taking vitamin D with certain medications can cause dangerous interactions. Vitamin K2 should not be taken by people on warfarin without medical supervision. Magnesium can be dangerous in kidney disease. Everything discussed represents general education about vitamin D biochemistry, not recommendations for your situation. Supplementation must be individualized based on blood testing and clinical assessment by a qualified physician. This video cannot replace medical care. Work with your healthcare provider for all decisions about vitamin D supplementation, testing, and monitoring. Take care of yourself. Get tested. Have those discussions with your doctor. Optimize your supplementation properly. And I'll see you in the next video where we continue this mission of health education together.